Are you, Emilio? Go ahead. You'll be, all right, but we have been blessed with Mino O'Day and his wife Lisa, and they are have stepped forward saying they would love to bring prayer and song and drumming to our event. And of course, we felt the power of that yesterday in a big way, in a good way, and we are so grateful that they haven't. They're going to do that a little bit this morning to get us started in a really good way. So I'm going to turn it over to Mino O'Day from the Lac de Flambeau Nation. I'm sorry. It's okay, close. My mistake. La Coudray. Yes. Now your nephew who introduced us, he's from Lac de Flambeau, Dave Fleming. He's LCO. He's LCO. Yeah. But we're all related. You're all Ojibwe. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Jurisdictions created by colonialism.
Yes. Sorry.
And here we are today at this moment in time. So I'm very honored to be here with everybody. So I say, Bonjour, Mino de Nindigenous, Ojawa Benesi Kwa, Ajinakazo. This is my wife, Lisa. And I say this every day. I'm grateful for the water in my life. I'm grateful to have this breath of life here on Mother Earth. In my native way, we have our spirit name and we introduce ourselves to the spirit through that. So that you heard another speaker yesterday, them, who she calls they, them, we, the spirit world, where we all come from, where we all made agreements with God, the creator, before we even came to this land of living things. We stood before the creator and we said, yeah, we're going to go and do these things. We're going to clean up that environment down there. We're going to make things different for our grandchildren and our children. And that's the focus of what we're doing here in Unity. So I want to thank Tim, David Fleming, my relative at home. I'll give you a little bit of my background. Ni Mino de Indicas, that's what the spirits call me. Ni Anonganabe means I'm from the Star Nation. Ni Biju Nindo Dem means that I am from the Cat clan, the sacred tiger, panther clans. And each one of you has an attachment to the spirit world in the same way that I do. And it's important for you to discover it. That's why we're here today. Because we, as Anishinaabe men, women, we decided to resurrect the ancient ways of our people and to bring back the Ogechida societies. Those were the warrior societies. Those were the places where we went to learn about culture, where we learned about tradition, our mores and values. We grew up with that. Both Lisa and I grew up with our hands in the dirt, walking on the land in our bare feet, fishing, hunting, and all those successes that we've achieved throughout our lifetime, we can attribute to the Creator. All of those things, the abundance of Mother Earth. And we've seen some things happen in our lifetimes and that concerned us very much. One of them is particularly in the area of healthcare. People back home have some serious issues because of a diet. And so we're busy trying to change minds and hearts on how to use food as medicine. So like go out and gather the foods off the land if you can still do that. Make sure that you're eating the freshest of produce. Make sure you can do that. So through that effort, we have resurrected these ceremonies and brought them out onto the earth where long ago, not too long ago, in the 1960s, in the 1970s, a lot of our ceremonies were outlawed and we were not allowed to do them. But with the American Indian movement, we were able to bring those things forward. I was just a young man during that time. My uncle David was actively involved with the American movement, like the other personalities like Russell Means, Dennis Banks, John Trudell, Chief Leonard Crow Dog, Wallace Black Elk, all of those famous leaders that you heard and had stories told about. My uncle, his name was Mishko Benet. He was a famous singer, and he was more famous for actually dating Buffy Marie and being a backup guitarist for her. but he was also at Wounded Knee. And he came back and told us the stories of the power of the Spirit. And this is where you all have to be. We have to raise our spiritual vibration because it's not of this world. It is of this world, but it's really not. We're battling something that is like a virus. It's a mind virus. It infects your thinking. It appeals to people who see themselves as victims. We must get past our victimization and victimhood so we can heal, so we can think clearly. We don't let those things interfere with what we want to do here. Yes, we were given a bad deal, but I have to live the way I can live and be successful today. What can I do about that? Let Coudray use the court system because that's the new battle system to create awareness about indigenous rights and freedoms that were there, solidified in the documents called treaties. So I used to work for the federal government and learned some things, and what I learned frightened the heck out of me. So I decided to walk away from that political world and become more involved in the metaphysical world and the spirituality of our entire communities, not just Native people. We're talking about God, we're talking about Creator, we're talking about energies that are beyond our understanding today. Sacred and holy only means beyond your ability to understand today, but that may change tomorrow if you give yourself the opportunity. I just want to say a little bit like that. I love my wife, Lisa. I love this land. I love the water. And we're Ogichita. We do ceremonies regularly. You're all invited to participate in these ceremonies because it's your destiny to do that. It's your destiny to learn about what was here before colonization came, changed all of us. And we have a system. We have to work with a system. Make your laws work. Don't try to change what's already there because thinkers already put some good ideas out there. We just need to work with what we have. And that's just a simple message I want to make today. I know there's much more, but we're going to sing a song. I'd like to let Lisa speak a little bit. She's
well, good morning. I want to say it's wonderful to see all of you wanting to put your energy into a better world and to making a better world for yourselves and your family and the community. And I'm really proud to be here and that you asked me to come here and participate too. Because that's the important part, is putting our energy all together. And spirit is something that you talk about being inspired. Well, that's how you feel, something that makes you feel like you want to be part of something bigger than yourself. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to get back to some of that, the spirit. I want to say thanks, Alan. Thank you.
Oh, Wopita. Sure, a little bit, if you'd like. So these are sacred healing songs. Give yourself a chance to open up your mind. Oh, that was an eagle dancing song.
All your ancestors are standing behind you. They're all rooting for you. So you got it in your DNA. You don't have to go to college. Go somewhere else.
You go back to yourself. So we'd like to sing a song that says, we're asking the Creator to send the good light of the thunder for here to this place. From we anchor the energy of our desires, of what we want to accomplish here. We're going to sing some eagle songs, so we choose. Because the eagle is what teaches us love. There are 7 teachings in our Tao way of life, and they are love and respect, strength, courage, truth, humility, and wisdom. Each one has an animal totem. And the eagle brings us love. The buffalo teaches us love. This is a song we want to sing to anchor our energy.
Thank Testing. Okay, thank you. Minnow O'Day from the Lakudere people. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, we will keep you in touch. Safe travels. So, friends, we've got ourselves a little behind schedule, but I think we can all agree it was very, very worth it. Very, very good. One thing I'm learning that, you know, you can pack too much into a weekend, and I've done that, and I apologize to all of you as participants and all of our presenters. We've got a tight schedule, and next to move us along is one of Madison's champions for justice, for education, for equity, for fairness, and for standing up for the people. Please give me a warm welcome to Ali Mudro. Ali.
That's such a nice introduction, and I just always like to remind folks that like the reviews about me are like very mixed, you know? So don't feel bad if you didn't like subscribe. I'm so honored to be here with y'all. How y'all doing today? All right. For those of you who responded with your eyebrows, that's how I know I'm in Wisconsin. You know, it's that like facial expression reaction to call and response. I'm so honored to get to introduce Emilio Del Torre, who is the executive director of Milwaukee Turners. He has served as the director of the community engagement for the ACLU of Wisconsin for 14 years. He's the host of the Val Phillips Forum and was the recipient of the 2013 YWCA Eliminating Racism Award and the 2021 Project Return Outstanding Service to the Community Award. He has worked on mass incarceration, voters' rights, immigration rights, civil rights, and technology issues for years. He is currently on the boards of the WUWM Milwaukee Public Radio, University of Wisconsin, Helen Badger School of Social Welfare, University of Wisconsin Center for 21st Century Studies, and the Optimist Theater. He is devoted to his family and friends and enjoys collecting vinyl, y'all. Couldn't really ask for like a better guy than that. Make some noise for Emiliano. Or I'm sorry, for Emilio.
Would you like to stand at the podium?
Remember some basic idioms. We keep us safe. We don't need to ask other folks to do these things. We need to educate on this. We need to center the voices of the people being attacked or disfranchised in our narrative. We need to ask and have conversations with those different things so that we jointly, we working under the leadership of the individuals who are being specifically threatened. So if you're in the immigration rights sphere, you work with folks that are immigrants, refugees, undocumented, to have them determine the course of action that you then support. That is an act of resistance. Whatever wonderful people bake those delicacies that I'm going to scarf down before I need you to beat you to the table, that is an act of solidarity and resistance, and my belly and I appreciate you deeply. You need to get involved with city, county, state, and federal. This sounds complicated. The Milwaukee Turners, which is the oldest civic group in the state, probably, 172. Don't look at the part, vampire. Thank you. They use written A.
Keep speaking.
Yeah, can you still hear me? Was there ever any doubt? No, thank you. Figuring out how to get involved. The tenuous battles that my friend Ali, who introduced us, pioneered and showed us how to do. How do you get involved in a school board? How do you get involved in a nonprofit you care for? Show up, shut up, listen, learn, and then move acting in concert with the other people who are reflected there. You have avatars that represent 40,000 constituents in state representative seats. You have county supervisors. You have aldermanic districts. You have school boards. You have people that figure out parking, how to beautify parks. Whatever floats your boat, whatever interest motivates you, you can easily get involved in that. You don't know how to do that? That's A-okay. Just show up, because the game is rigged and the struggle is because it is intentionally complicated and obfuscated to prevent you from getting involved. So do that great act of resistance and show up. It's like AA meetings. Show up, shut up, make the coffee. Sit and learn. Eventually you'll figure it out. Hey, it worked for me. I have over 25 years sober. It'll work for you too. Don't clap for that. Cry for the things I did prior to. Voicing your opinion is an act of resistance, as long as you're voicing it from a place of love. Reading the news, especially now with the open declaration of war on news, is an act of resistance. Find out from John Nichols, who's speaking later, or somebody you trust who seems informed, where you can learn accurately what's going on to weed through the BS and the propaganda. Build alliances. Seeing how different, how beautiful you all are, how many of you don't know one another, meet somebody new. Why not? I meet people new all the time in hopes that they'll cook me something tasty. Break the silos, separation, segregation, reservations are all intentionally designed because I can cull you off from the pack weaken you, and victimize you. That is not a new tactic. That has gone on for as long as there were two humans who wanted something that the third human had. We already know this. So defeat it. Make a new friend. Spend your money in different places. Great. You got some money? You hungry? You're not Black? Eat at a Black restaurant. Shop at a Black place. Go to a Native place. Go to an authentic Latino place, not a bootleg Latino. Okay, as cute as the AI Chihuahua from Taco Bell is, boo. And if you don't know where it is, go online and read a review or ask somebody. But don't be racist and say, hey, I noticed you might be a Latino. Could you tell me where I can get a taco? Wrong, false. Be quiet and learn. Break those silos, because simply existing is an act of resistance. Existing in concert and group with one another is a beautiful act of resistance and creates solidarity, which brings me to joy. Smiling is the best act of resistance. Is joy, helps you remain undaunted. When I see my beautiful sister in the hallway and she smiles at me, when I'm greeted by my beautiful paparazzi sister over here and she smiles at me, when I get hugs from folks, when Tim butters me up, smiles and says nice things on the phone, the hopes that I show up here bright and early, that is more than an act of resistance, that is an act of joy. And the greatest gift that we can give one another is to lift one up, our friends, to hug each other, to smile, to ask nothing of it except that I give you love and I expect nothing from that in return. And then to provide in the way we can. And this helps us to remain undaunted. My own group, the Milwaukee Turners, provide free yoga, free Zumba, free recovery programs, legal observers, de-escalation, nonpartisan civic engagement trainings for children and adults all over, free older adult programs, free veteran programs. They are led by, facilitated by certified professionals who are each culturally, ethnically, and lived experience reflective of the folks with whom they work in the languages that are best received by those folks. It seems like a no-brainer, but people don't do that. That is how you bring joy. They are also free. I do not ask people to pay for that which they need. If you need medicine from me, if you need support from me, I'm not doing that because it's transactional. I'm doing that because that is our responsibility as members of a democracy and culture where we propose to care about one another. And I advocate then that we do. And this helps you to remain undaunted. The Turners, and I love the phrase undaunted for two reasons. The Milwaukee Turners that provided the armed bodyguard for Abraham Lincoln were the first group in the state to ban Nazis as members back in 1937. First called themselves the Undaunted in German and English at the time when they fought against the Confederate slavers. They resuscitated that name when we fought against Nazis. We have resuscitated that name again as Undaunted in these modern times because as Americans, we need to be undaunted. So I encourage you to be fearless in the face of the struggles, fearless in the hard work that it's going to take us and our families to do as acts of resistance, and fearless as you unconditionally give radical love and support to your brothers and sisters who, even though they may be hiding from a mask, still need that radical love and support. With that, before I get into a great panel with my friends Darren Madison, Daisy Espana, and Wyatt Meyer, I would like to end in one of my favorite quotes from Assata Shakur, which I think embodies struggle, resistance, and joy. And certainly the saying of this keeps me undaunted. I'm hoping that my brother Darren Madison, who I met when he was first 14, who helped teach me this quote, will lead us in this, this chant.
Absolutely, I got you. So if everyone could, as we say this, we're gonna start at our normal voice level, and then as we end this, we're gonna say it as loud as we can, so that folks can hear it, so that our ancestors can hear it, and we can ground ourselves in this space, which we've already began to do, thanks to our brother over here. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other.
We must love each other
And support each other.
and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other.
We must love each other
And support each other.
and support each other.
We have nothing to change.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
It's our duty.
It is our duty to fight. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have our change.
That's not a Shakur.
So we're gonna take a short break, get some water, go pee-pees, and then return back. And we're gonna be joined by the lovely Darren Madison, Daisy Espana, and Wyatt Meyer. We're gonna talk about what we can do to confront mass incarceration, support our struggles against immigration rights, and support one another in the rights for trans folks and families.
We're not getting down.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me in the room? Hello? That's my laptop. Yeah, but that's just from on the laptop.
Was junior offices. Located. Small building between the first and second. Hello, again, my name is Emilio, Torre, I'm the executive director of Marcus Turner Hall. We have a incredible community leaders, each of whom is going to explain who they are. And in what capacity they're here. They are here in their mostly human capacity, but we've got a lot of things. And I just want to reiterate that some of you just friends with Darren and Casey and Wyatt. It's important to remember that just like you, each of you, all of us have myriad identities that are found in your humanness. You may look, be from, care about, reflections of certain things, and I feel that, but we're all far more complicated. Our identities of ethnicity, sexual identity, gender identity, citizenship status, ability, age, education level, all of these different things. Where we grew up, all of these different things create biases, stainless bias, evolutionary bias, and therefore reiterate the need for us to join together in resistance so that we can uplift one another. And so we have these great folks who are each going to talk about. Should I look at myself again?
It's up to you.
Oh, I'm very vain. So we have all of these, we have these fantastic people who are going to talk to us specifically about confronting mass incarceration issues, immigration issues, and trans liberation issues. So we'll start with Darren, who you met moments ago, who will kick us off with his name and in what capacity he's here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Darren Madison. The city. As a child, I used to dream that like if I came to Madison, people would crown me their king. So one day, I'll plunder these lands. We'll see. But I'm State Representative Darren Madison. I represent the 10th Assembly District, which encompasses the city of Milwaukee, the city of Glendale, the city of Glendale and the village of Shorewood. And I serve on the Corrections Committee, the AI Science and Technology Committee, as the ranking member, and the Urban Revitalization Committee, which is I often synonymous, it's synonymous with the basically Hate on Milwaukee and Madison Committee, and in the Information Policy and Technology Intergovernmental Joint Committee. I'm glad to be here today to talk to you a lot about some of the happenings in Wisconsin as it relates to our correctional system and moving away from the injustices in the DOC and towards a system that actually ensures folks have the ability to thrive and become productive returning citizens in our communities.
Thank you, Daisy.
I'm gonna try to use my big girl voice, so if you can't hear me, I don't know. My name is Daisy España. I'm 22. I'm a proud daughter of and I'm here as a member of Voces de la Frontera and Comité Sin Fronteras, which is a committee through Voces, as an organizer. I like to say that my work started because of like my upbringing. My parents are undocumented. Well, my dad is now. My mom became a permanent resident not so long ago. But it just all stemmed from the experiences that my parents had to go through and still go through, and seeing that firsthand. I ran for assembly in the fall. Did not win, but well,
But it'll happen.
but yeah, it'll happen. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about what I do and what we all should do.
Thank you. Wyatt?
Hello, hi, I'm Wyatt Meyer. I am the co-founder and executive director of an org called Milwaukee Trans and Queer Depot. We're an org focused on trans health equity, specifically in Milwaukee right now. I used to teach classes at UWM on Trans Health 101. I have a history of teaching first responders as well, how to respond safer to our trans brothers and sisters. And yeah, I'm here to talk to you about trans equity. It's going to be a blast.
Thank you. So now we all know. And I know we're going to break out into breakout groups later on to talk a little about what organizing in these various capacities. So please, if these ideas are new to you, if these communities are new to you, if you're unfamiliar with this, connect with us afterwards for the breakout sessions and figure out how you can continue the fight you're already engaged in, or figure out how you can align some of these different things. There is no reason why the different areas and skill sets that you heard from these folks aren't also caught up in multiple parts of our identities. And that's a very important thing to remember as we build solidarity across lines. One of the things that is very toxic is that folks think that they're a single issue human and just move forward on one thing. To build unity, we have to figure out how within our capacity we can work to engage in myriad struggles for liberation and equity. So maybe we'll start kind of macro. We obviously we all anticipate that things will change on January 20th, and that as I used the analogy earlier, mask will be lifted off. Hatred, bias, shaming, incarceration, xenophobia, it all exists. But we're anticipating new threats in these arenas. So maybe what we'll do now is we'll start by talking a little about what exists at this moment. And maybe what the landscape looks like. So, for example, we can start a little with Daisy, and we'll just put in the context. There are 360,000 immigrants in the state of Wisconsin. There are many different types of immigrant. You could be one of the 40,000 Hmong refugees that fought on behalf of the United States, came here with a guaranteed path to citizenship, and if you didn't speak this language in English and you didn't know how to navigate it, maybe you didn't finish it. And so you are potentially at risk for deportation, because if I got picked up for shoplifting or public intoxication, it's a misdemeanor. If I'm in refugee status and I get shoplifting or whatever thing I did, which would be a misdemeanor, it can be a deportable felony. And so obviously that then affects health and other stuff, access to resources and incarceration. So 360,000 immigrants in this state. Isn't that larger than the population of the city of Madison? So think about that for a second, and maybe Daisy will tell us a little. And there's like 11 different subsections of immigrant. There's different types of immigrant. For example, you know, you can have a resident alien, all sorts of different things. Naturalized citizen, transnational adoptees. Daisy, could you help us? And then we'll pop around. Just kind of paint a broad picture of what's going on now, maybe in Wisconsin.
Like what we're looking at?
Yeah, what's happening in Wisconsin? What are you working on? What are like some of the current threats? What are folks in the Comité de Fronteras working on? You know about that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we created this committee called the Comité Sin Fronteras, Committee Without Borders. It's just within Voces, so we're under Voces. And just some like brief information. At Voces, there's Youth Empowered in the Struggle, which is high schoolers and college students who organize. And then there's Essential Workers Network, which is older folks who are organizing like at their jobs or whatnot. But there's a huge gap within the immigrants' rights movement, which I belong to because I am no longer that young, right? And we wanted to create a committee where we can kind of connect or like fill in the gap. And specifically to focus on DACA recipients. And for those of you who don't know what DACA stands for, is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which is temporary protection for folks who came here when they were children. And oftentimes within the immigrants' rights movement, DACA recipients get like overlooked because they have that temporary protection status versus someone who's fully like undocumented, right? And what we know right now, maybe not like in Wisconsin, but as like a national, yeah, is that DACA will be like it's gonna be gone. I think by June or like the summer of this year. And so whether it's President Trump who decides to eliminate it, which I don't think he will, I think it's gonna end in the courts. But however it ends, it's gonna end. And so right now what we're doing is helping people who have DACA renew their DACA. And for those of you who don't know, online it's $555 to renew your DACA. And if you mail it, it's I think $605, right? So it's a huge burden for DACA recipients. And this is every 2 years they have to renew, right? And so what we're doing is people whose their DACA is being like expired this year, we're helping them renew it, and we're covering that the cost. So we're doing a lot of fundraising. We've been able to raise a little under $40,000. And we had our first DACA clinic in Milwaukee. And we were able to pay for 22 DACA recipients, and we're hoping to go around the state and do that. I think our next one is going to be in Racine. Don't quote me. I think we're looking at the 8th of February, but that is still in the works. But then we'll come to Madison, Green Bay, and other parts of.
That's beautiful. So there's many different ways for folks currently to align. My sisters from LULAC who are here from Racine and Green Bay can partner with you to assist with that. Organizations like the Turners have donated money so that individuals, you know, you don't have to have $600 in your wallet, but you can contribute to help other folks, especially from DACA, which stands for again?
Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival.
Yep, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival. So the children that were brought here or came here, and then you know, working towards achieving the American dream, and certainly have a right to do this, and then we can help process their paperwork so that they can take part in this thing. So there's 3 things that all of you can do listening to this. Wyatt, could you tell us a little about kind of the state of affairs for trans folks and why even you helped to create the organization that you had?
Yeah, absolutely. If we're looking just at like current state, things are okay. Right now, there's a lot of things like updating your gender marker on your passport. You don't need any additional documentation. You can just renew your passport and be like, yeah, I'm going to change my gender. And that's really great. Like we've been pushing a lot for that through this year to make sure that trans folks at least have one piece of legal documentation that matches their gender identity, which is really great. In Wisconsin, things are definitely not as bad as they could be. Milwaukee did a thing where they decided that they're a sanctuary city. I think that that term is really great to put out there, but we don't have a ton of the like legislation in place to actually back it up, like, you know, say Illinois or Minnesota does. We're definitely seeing trans refugees and trans families coming from states like North Carolina, Florida for sure, Texas, moving into more Midwestern states that typically have more protections. Mainly because Midwestern states are a lot more accessible to move to than places like California and Washington that tend to have a little bit of higher living expense. In terms of the depot and kind of what we do, so when I first started my transition, I was living in Minnesota, and there was a place called the Minnesota Transgender Health Coalition in Minneapolis. And I went there and I got my first T-shot there. My doctor didn't even actually teach me how to do my shot. She gave me a vial of testosterone and a pamphlet with an address on it. And I went there and a trans person showed me how to give myself my shot, set me up with all of my supplies. And then was like, cool, we'll be here every week if you want to come back. When I moved to Milwaukee about 8 years ago, I was like, Milwaukee and Minneapolis are the same. So obviously Milwaukee has this. And they didn't. So I spent several years trying, like talking to different community organizers to get something like that set up. And so now we operate once a week. We have a space out of Zal, Milwaukee, which is a very trans friendly church. It's run by 2 trans folks. And they give us a space. And so we meet in their living room every week, and we have volunteers give trans folks their hormone injections. We have free supplies for them. Everything that the depot does and provides to the community is always free. We do some name change clinics. We offer with passport assistance. And we provide just like a sober community space for trans and queer folks to come and hang out and exist, and just like a very joyful spot. Which we found, like you said, you know, when you were speaking earlier, the fact that, you know, joy is resistance, having more than 2 people, really having more than 1 trans person in a room, but having more than 2 trans people in a room together and not being terrified, like, holy crap, that's an act of resistance in and of itself. But yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And so I heard several different ways that folks can learn from and support the work that you're doing, and hopefully other folks across the state are doing, whether that is financial, whether it's sharing talent, so the need for attorneys, doctors, individuals, the need to donate space for folks to be able to have a safe space to come together and meet, holding meetings in areas outside of just the library.
The library is open. You can use the small coffee clutch. It's open from 3 to 4 p.m. It's the only time you can book it. Good luck.
And no shade to libraries. I love them. Is important too. So here, listen as we actively listen to see the different ways that we might be able to uplift and find support for folks doing things, and extend that where we can. State Representative Darren Madison. I'm hoping that you can kind of paint a broader picture of what the state of mass incarceration looks like. And it's ever changing. I know I just had the pleasure of watching you get re-inaugurated in this building the other day downstairs. I know that you have worked on this issue for a long time. For those that are listening online or here, can you kind of paint a broad picture of some of what the system is like and why it's broken in the state?
Got you. Absolutely. So first, let's look at the population of folks who are incarcerated. In the state of Wisconsin, we have 35,000 people who are incarcerated. 20,000 of those folks are in state prisons. 12,000 of those folks are in local jails. 420, and it fluctuates, of young people are in the combination of Mendota, which is our mental health facility. It's the only mental health facility in the state, and they provide for both adults and young people. That's a problem. Young people should be in their own mental health facility. First injustice.
And Mendoza's here in Madison, right?
Yes. Secondly, the cost of incarcerating a young person is close to $1 million a
So
year.
is that one young person for a year?
One young person. So it'll be about $820,000 this year. By June this year, it'll be $820,000. And that will continuously rise until the new facility is built in Milwaukee. And then they're working on one in Dane County. They're also trying to get one in Brown County. The problem is that we shouldn't be incarcerating young people. We should be building a system to ensure that they go through actual rehabilitation. But that's its own juncture. Especially when you compare the cost of incarcerating a young person to what we spend on educating young people in this state, which is disproportionately a problem. Then you think about outside of that, those folks you have behind bars, you have about 60,000. What is it? 60,000? I always get the.
It's closer to 60 for people incarcerated.
Nope. I'm thinking about the number of folks who are on supervision.
Oh, it's a lot. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly. It used to be 80.
Okay, so I think the number is close to 60,000 people who are on community supervision. Those are people who are on probation, folks who are on electronic monitoring, and so on. Did you know that the state spends about $1,200 per electronic monitor for a person, and then that individual has to pay about $240 a month for that monitor. If you calculate what that cost is over the span of sometimes 10, 20 years, you get a pretty big penny. Especially as you think about folks who are already struggling to find employment, and so on. And then you think about the problems with electronic monitoring systems. The battery will die, the monitor get a little loose. And every time a malfunction that's sometimes completely out of the control of someone who's on it, messes up, they get sent directly back to prison. That's a violation. It's called a technical violation. So as you think about our justice system, and what it means to keep folks safe, and keep our community safe, we're not doing that. And it's costing you a pretty penny. As you look at our prisons, the folks who are incarcerated, there's a whole nother subset of issues for conditions in our prison. When I first got elected, I made a promise to visit every single facility in our state. And when I did, the horrors I saw were tremendous. We have facilities like Waupun, which in April, it was 90 degrees. No, it was 97 degrees in the actual prison cells. So if that's in April, imagine what the temperature is in June and in August. And as we look at the folks who are incarcerated, they've been spending 23 hours a day in their cells. So what does that mean?
That means torture.
Exactly. So as you pair that with other issues from access to phone calls, which is a pretty penny, and you have folks like Wisdom and Micah and other folks who are working to get free phone calls in our facilities, to visitation being stopped in facilities, and lockdowns being incorporated, and solitary confinement, even though we don't call it solitary confinement in the state of Wisconsin. Just because we've named it something different doesn't mean it is. All of these are injustices that are leading to people dying in our facilities. There were more than 3 deaths in Waupun this past summer. There were a few deaths in Green Bay Correctional Facility, and there's been a death in MSDF, a prison that is one of the newest prisons in the state of Wisconsin, but it's a building inside of a building. It does not have windows. When I visited that facility, what I heard from folks is, I just want to see the sun. That's insane.
Mhm.
When you build for torturing people, what do you think that these people will become when they return to our communities? That is our justice system currently, with a false claim of security for our communities and a serious violation of human rights for folks who are incarcerated, setting a constant path for recidivism and greater harms to our public safety in the state of Wisconsin, all on the pretty penny that you guys all pay in tax dollars. That is our justice system.
Terrible. And it has been like that for years. I arrived here in 2006. It's been broken like that. I thought when I left the state that brought us Rikers Island that there was going to be an improvement here, and I was woefully mistaken. So I've heard a lot of ways we can intersect with you too on this. So as we're talking about ways to support one another in the struggle, create acts of resistance and solidarity, there are lonely, hurting folks in there that can use correspondence. There's, we all have state representatives, state senators, county supervisors, alders that we can lift these issues up. For how many of you, as you heard from Wyatt, Daisy, and Darren, learned something new or didn't know something? Okay, me too. Now imagine how many of your elected officials don't know this because they're not here on a Sunday morning, right? So you, even just sharing a message from Wyatt and Daisy and Darren, can be maybe alleviating a portion of what folks have to navigate in their world because they're living that identity. I can't remember if you talked about technical rules violations, but in Wisconsin, you can conceivably be on probation or parole forever.
Yep.
So the judge sentences you to 5 years. You have these 18 conditions, these rules you have to follow. If you violate one of them, it's not a law.
And they vary.
And they vary, or the probation officer creates new ones that goes on there. And I've met people who were told they couldn't wear a t-shirt that reflected a heavy metal band or hip hop band because they were criminogenic. And if they wore that, they violated that rule, they would have to go back to prison. So because you wore a t-shirt, I'm remanding you back to prison. If I told you that happened in the United States, people say, no way, get out of here. But it happens right here in the state. And it's paid for, as Darren pointed out, with the tax dollars. So there's ways that we can get involved with MICA, which is part of Wisdom, which is a statewide interfaith organization with many different community groups that are involved, support groups all over, groups like the community at the beginning. We'll get to all questions at the end, I promise. We'll get to invectives and insults, offers of assistance. We'll get to all community volunteer at the end when we do some questions from the public. That you can volunteer in your local community groups because there are prisons all across the state. People are isolated, people are in lockdown in overheated incubators, and then even when they come back, that means they're not able to support their families emotionally, they're not able to support their children. They come back after this incarceration, and they have to deal with the fact that their partner has now found a new partner, that their children are looking to somebody else for a parent or don't have any parent, and are now replicating the steps that may have gotten their adult parent in there in the first place. All of those folks, therefore, outside of the system need support too. Emotional, counseling. All of the folks involved in the stories that Daisy and Wyatt shared also need support and bravery and a hug and all the different ways that we would support any of our own family members who are going through a hardship. All of these things, confusing educationally or torturous, are hardships where it is our duty and our responsibility to support our neighbors. All right, bleak setting of what we have in the beginning of 2025. But it has been this for a while. Let's talk a little about what we anticipate coming down the hop. And I know, because Monday morning I'm going to the city of Milwaukee, I know that as the different cities, you from Madison, you from Racine, each of your city has a legislative package where your city plans what they're going to lobby the state representatives and state senators for. So whether or not you know this, your different cities, Racine, Green Bay, Madison, Milwaukee, have a big book, maybe 200 or 300 pages that says, we're gonna ask you this, we're gonna ask you this, we're gonna ask you to do this, we're gonna ask you to change it. And I know that there is, in each of these city packets, things that pertain to the broader LGBTQIA community, the broader immigration community, the broader community of fees, fines, sentencing, criminal justice, incarceration, whatever it's called in those specific books. Some of those things might be good, and some of those things are bad. So I know the city of Milwaukee is contemplating something which would expand and create debtors' prisons. So they're actively going, for whatever reason, to say, hey, I'd like to jail you for not paying your fines or fees to the municipal court. Dickens and Michelle Alexander both warned us about this, yet this is something that's going to come. Now, the city leaders didn't necessarily write this. Generally, that's introduced from somebody that has a vested interest in commodifying incarceration, right? Probably the Milwaukee Police Department, I'm pretty sure, had this great idea and then says, hey, get this done. And if you're an alderman from a city, you're getting this big book, in addition to everything else you're doing, you're not going to even know it's there. And so you're trusting on somebody that's supposed to review this and go through. Maybe your city wants to criminalize or create a relationship with ICE. So if they find somebody they think is, because there are at least 3 counties, I know Waukesha County and I believe Dodge County and 2 other counties perhaps have relationships with ICE, which is a federal immigration thing, where if they think 8 total, thank you, terrible. 8 counties out of the 72 in the state have relationships with ICE, whereby if I pull over Darren and I suspect or I find out that he's undocumented, meaning he doesn't have paperwork saying that he should be here, maybe he's on vacation, maybe it's a visa, maybe his visa expired, how the hell do I know? I'm going to hold him for the feds to come and deport him or lock him up in one of the prisons, because remember, Dodge County is an immigration site and there's other ones, and they tried to open a private one up in New Richmond a few years ago, and we helped stop that. Your city may be trying, or your county may be trying to introduce the same relationship. If you did not know this was a thing and you're learning it now over coffee, look into it. Find out who your county supervisor is, or your alder, or whatever, call it in your respective city, common council member, and ask if this is there. Now I'm telling you to check, right? If I tell you, make sure there's no puddle of water by your outlet, you'll do that. Make sure there's no puddle of water by your social outlet. You may have something set up where they are trying to create a sanctuary city, which really doesn't have a legal definition, but is an intention of the city to protect. And so that might be something helpful for other residents nearby. Or there may be medical resources or other social emotional supports for folks that would benefit any of the different folks that are here. So now maybe let's talk for a second about what's coming down the pipeline. What can we anticipate, or what has been threatened, or what are we worried might be unleashed in January 20th? At least that is the start of pistol date, and we can start, let's switch it up. And who wants to go first? The first were forced conscription. This is voluntary.
Why will be tribute?
Perfect. Man, great question. So what are we anticipating as of January 20th? Well, the last time that Donald Trump took office, the first thing that we saw on the morning of his inauguration was the LGBTQ page on the White House's website was taken down. So, I mean, that's a.
You don't exist. I'm
Yeah.
ignoring you.
Exactly. The big concern at this point is myself, translators in my media are legislative bills that restrict bathroom access based on your gender assigned, or your gender assigned at birth. So, and there's several reasons for that. I think Florida, I mean, we've all heard like the bathroom bills, they're really hard to enact, but seeing one come through at a federal level restricts access in a lot of ways and starts to restrict the ability to travel. And that is sort of the first precursor that we're like, okay, things are going to get really bad. Other things that we're kind of going to be on the lookout for in general, same as last time, hate crimes being on the rise. We saw, a massive rise in hate crimes across everyone, not just LGBTQ and trans folks. It's going to be fun. As of some things that like Milwaukee is doing, or some things that I spoke briefly about how Milwaukee had declared itself a sanctuary city. We're really looking for some like in writing words to back that up. Some legislation from Milwaukee would be fantastic. Some things like the district attorney agreeing not to prosecute doctors who provide gender affirming care, doctors who provide abortion care. And then as for some work that the different organizations in Milwaukee are doing, I mean, the depot is still going to exist. We're fighting with whether or not we exist in more of an above ground way or below ground way. But the depot itself will always exist in some capacity. We have places like Diverse and Resilient, Sunseekers. ZOW does a lot of community organizing. Sunseekers is a Black trans organization focused on like Black equity, which is phenomenal. And a lot of those organizations are also coming together right now to discuss, okay, how do we help protect trans folks? And a big way that we do that is name changes and passports. So the Milwaukee Justice Center has agreed to do some work with us to set up name change clinics. They're already running name change clinics on their own. DNR is putting their money where their mouth is, which is awesome. They've agreed to set aside some funds to help trans folks actually like pay to change their names and provide passport documentation. Yeah, there's some cool stuff happening in alongside just kind of utter panic that we're all trying to survive through, which is great.
Thank you. And that we can support them. In this. Daisy, you want to tell us what folks might be anticipating?
Yeah, so I think the biggest threat I think that we've been hearing is the mass deportation threat, right? And when Trump was president back in 2016, I think, obviously, you know, he said the same things, and then I think at first people didn't think he was gonna go through with the stuff that he was saying, and then like we saw how he did. And now we know he'll do something. We just don't know to what capacity, right? So we're always kind of just on our feet. But we are actively preparing for these like mass deportations, right? And so, for example, we've been doing Know Your Rights training, and we'll continue doing that across the state and very frequently. I mentioned the DACA clinics to help folks renew their DACA so that they can at least get 2 more years that they're, you know, protected. We're also going to be talking to county, city, and state officials to work with them, see if we can get something passed on all levels to, like you talked about, sanctuary, like counties or cities, etc., which only goes a certain like way, but it's still something. We're gonna push for the courts to be like safe, and for not like agents not to be in the courtrooms. But I think, you know, in Wisconsin, we lost driver's license for undocumented folks in 2007, I think. I was like 5 and I'm 22 now. So like we've been years, right, fighting to reinstate driver's license. Like my dad has not had a driver's license since I was a kid, right? And so I think one of the ways people encounter ICE is because of like on the road, right, driving. And so if someone doesn't have a driver's license, then it, you know, just becomes a huge issue. And in the state of Wisconsin, if you get stopped twice without a driver's license, then you have to get, you know, I don't know what it's called. I don't know. But then now you have to go into like a courtroom, and so then that's when the issues of like ICE being there. And anyway, so we're pushing for, I know we have we have some ideas on how we're gonna, like we have, I think, the Safe Roads Coalition, where we're asking like organizations to be part of the coalition so that we can push for driver's license, whether it's through the budget or through a standalone bill. But yeah, I mean, it's really, and then we have a hotline too. Voces has a hotline, it's 24/7 hotline number where people can call in case of emergencies. But yeah, I mean, like we're hearing things about how they want to enact like a hotline themselves for people to like call and say that. Yeah. So things are, I mean, we're seeing it in California, in like Bakersfield and the ice raids over there. A lot of that is on social media. People are like preparing themselves. We're trying to, we're working with lawyers and everyone that we can to kind of, we're gonna do our best to fight, but we also gotta like prepare and make sure everyone knows what to do, what to say, what not to say. And yeah, I mean, like in Bayview, we've had like some disturbing signs put up about, threats to immigrants and stuff. So it's gonna be tough, and just trying to prepare. If you guys should come to the Voces annual assembly, which is on the 25th of January. We're gonna be talking more about like our plan for this upcoming year and our different like committees. And if you guys want to get involved, it's at South Division in Milwaukee. So yeah.
South Division High School.
Yes.
And just to add to some of the things that Daisy offered. Daisy has been working with Emilio and other stakeholders to develop a training to help folks navigate all of the different moving pieces of the growth of ICE and their efforts and throughout the state of Wisconsin, so folks know what to do when, and to be able to train immigrant populations, but also train in other community members, state representatives, and other stakeholders, so that we all are coming to folks with the same information, giving folks the same resources, especially as this thing rises. Also, there have been conversations with law enforcement at the county and city levels, at least in the city of Milwaukee. You should be asking your alders and your county supervisors and your state representatives to be having these conversations with their respective law enforcement. Talk about if the new administration ties federal grants for your law enforcement to working with ICE, will you not take those resources? Because that is going to be the biggest burden for law enforcement agencies, and they're going to place that burden on alders, right? Nobody wants to be called the elected official who doesn't support public safety. And we know law enforcement places that pressure on folks through their unions when they want something, and people often cave to that pressure. This is not the time to cave to that pressure. It puts so many people at risk. And the same thing will likely happen with state funding, right? The same ties for local communities to have to work with ICE to be able to receive state funding. That is likely something that we'll have to navigate in the legislature. And it's going to be critical that all of you call all of your electeds, because they will be scared, Democrats and Republicans alike, to cave into legislation like this. So those are things to pay attention to. The other thing, switching to the criminal legal system, we consistently deal with a raise of, legislatures, local electeds, and federal electeds creating new crimes, and instituting mandatory minimums. The rate in which that will happen will increase substantially under this new administration. What that means is that, again, you'll have folks faced with the same question. Do you want to hold hold people who commit crimes accountable, or are you going to be weak on crime? Are you going to be weak on crime? Again, these are, as an elected official, these are the things that like people try and throw in our face, right? All the time. If you don't support giving more money to cops, if you don't support creating this mandatory minimum, if you don't support working with ICE, you are weak on crime and you don't want to keep your community safe. We know that's not the reality, but often people cave under that pressure. Last session, we have to deal with 143 bills that created new crimes or created new mandatory minimums. And majority of those bills were passed, and majority of those bills were signed by the governor. That is a problem because that increases the amount of folks we're incarcerating, and especially for often nonviolent crimes, or without due process. We had a constitutional amendment that did that, that allowed folks to be incarcerated with excessive bail in the state of Wisconsin. And you know what? Majority of Wisconsins voted for it because they were uninformed about it. There are going to be more efforts like that coming. There are going to be efforts related to creating more prisons and resources coming from the federal government to create more prisons throughout the country. And there are going to be efforts to create, like Emilio said, debtors prisons in a lot of spaces at the federal, and resources from the federal government will come down for that. We've seen what debtor prisons do to states. Look at Missouri. They've set up the most amount of private prisons and debtors prisons in the country, and it has not improved public safety. These are issues that we will deal with. We will have to deal with, especially as we create more crimes or create more issues that will become crimes. And we have to, because everything has to cost, right? The cost of incarcerating folks in this, the percentage of the budget right now that goes to the DOC is majority of it right now. The state budget, it's the biggest expenditure in the state is our Department of Correction. The second biggest is our education, which is great in some ways, but there's a lot of ways in which we're defunding public education. And yes, defunding public education and the public education system is a criminal justice issue. And that is going to be at the forefront of the fight we have to deal with, especially in the state of Wisconsin. So we are working to pass a 90% reimbursement for special education, which is completely necessary because currently it's less than 30%. And that is making, as folks, raise your hand if you voted for a referendum to give more money to your school district. Right. Majority of the ask on those referendums are coming from the amount of money that is being lost from a lack of special ed reimbursement. So the biggest way we can fix our education system is to ensure that we're reimbursing our school districts for providing a necessary service for our students that are struggling with their abilities. So that's the continuum. That's the things that we have to think about at the federal level as it relates to the justice system. And we have a lot of work to do.
We do. And we're actually going to do some of that work shortly because we're going to break up into breakout groups and strategize some of these issues. So I just want to make a linchpin here and say a budget is a moral document. So in each of your counties and your cities in the state, where we are putting most of our money says that morally this is the most important thing to us. Morally, as a state or in the city of Milwaukee and other places, this investment in policing and incarceration says the most important thing to me is locking people up. No one in their right mind would say that. So they have to figure out what they're doing, because when I give you $1, I am casting a vote. And if I tell you, you go vote for me, and you give my dollars to that, then I am Vichy France, complicit in your bad actions because I have endorsed and supported you, which, yes, I'm paralleling the folks that don't get involved to being traitors because they are complicit in the incarceration, the whole scale arrest of other individuals and bankrolling that. So we're going to break up into groups. We're going to talk about these things. You can jump into Wyatt's group 4. 3 is magic number with Daisy, group 2 with Darren, or group 1 with me.
Do we want to take 2 of these questions?
Yes, I'm going to take 2 of these questions real quick. I just want to let people know where to go. Tim is gonna tell us where to go. He told me where to go this morning, and my feelings were hurt, so someplace nicer. But I'm gonna go in chronological order, my comrade here and then my comrade there. Yep. We mentioned it. Yep. So anybody interested in joining the Moses meeting, which is going to be addressing racial equity and confronting mass incarceration, connect with my friend up here. I know Racine's got Rick. I know we've got Sophia, and we've got them all around the state. Connect with your groups. If you have problems figuring out where from your city is a local group connected to Wisdom, which is a statewide, find me and I'll put you in contact with it. Thank you so much for bringing that to us, friend. Excellent. You're going to bring that and any other relevant information specifically to that to the workout group. Absolutely. So if you're a Milwaukee resident or you're local or visiting, I want to go to Milwaukee. Link up with my friend here, and now we're going to split up into groups, bring those important issues to it. There's not so many people here. I think we can break up. And if you're interested in doing a little crisscross, you don't just have to care about one issue. I may want to go and learn some things, get some stuff I need out of it, introduce myself, and then go learn from Daisy. So why don't we just divide the room up this way? We're gonna give
Let's do that side, this area.
yes, Darren, go over there. Daisy is gonna sit up here and bask in power. So if you're interested in connecting on immigration rights and giving Daisy the respect she is due, come up here. Wyatt, you want the comfy row or the food row? Ooh. Comfy row in the back by the sconces there with Wyatt. And I'm gonna I'm gonna be over here near the coffee because that's my safe space. Daisy's staying up.
Oh, okay.
You want to talk about? I'm loose eating peanuts.
Well.